Welcome everyone to episode 35 of the Gamers Dome. As always, I am your host Scott Gerhart, and we're gonna fly. We're gonna fly solo this week. Sometimes we do the guest host thing, sometimes not. So this is our first week actually back after about a 3 week hiatus here. I was kind of gone. I've been in various cities the last um, weeks, and it's been more than difficult for me to actually do my show. So we took the hiatus for a little while here, and we'll be discussing that hiatus because a lot of it had to do with gaming while I was gone. So I definitely would like to get to that at some point here over the show. But there is definitely quite a bit to catch up on here from the gaming world. Never a shortage of news there. So I think in lieu of having someone to banter with, we will just go ahead and give it a go here right into the news. Okay, so let's start with Blizzard All Stars here. So this has gone by a couple of different names here over time. Well, Blizzard All Stars being the second to most recent name. Um, there was I believe it was called Blizzard Dota at one point. It's their All Star Melee game, and it has now been renamed to Heroes of the Storm. And we're apparently going to get more information about this at BlizzCon, though I'm not exactly sure what, but I'm sure with BlizzCon just being a couple of weeks away at this point, that we should get plenty of information there. And we will actually be at BlizzCon doing some coverage, so the show after that should be really kind of cool. We'll have all sorts of information from that. If you haven't seen the promo video for it, it's really awesome. I mean, it's seriously just a lot of fun. I I got a kick out of it. And there's a number of these games that have started to come out. It kind of started really with Super Smash Brothers Melee, but a number of platforms have done this, and I really can't wait to see what Blizzard pulls out on this one. They always do a really good job of their stuff. So, the cartoon's great. I seriously, the promo is just awesome. It's about a minute and a half long. It's definitely worth checking out. So the PS4 is right around the corner. Speaking of things that are right around the corner, and if for some reason you're looking at the $399 price tag and thinking, "Oh Lord, that is a lot of money," you could live in Brazil. In Brazil, a PS4 is going to run the equivalent of $1,850. This has a lot to do with just the import taxes and fees and stuff that it takes to get it into Brazil. It makes up a good 60 to 70% of the price. So it's actually, yeah, 3,999 Brazilian real. Games are going to cost about 179 real, or about $83 each. It'll hit sale there November 29th, which is the same as in Europe. The estimate on what it's going to run for the Xbox One will be about 2,200 real, or about 1,016. So that's kind of interesting there. They must have a better import deal or something. I'm not sure what. But 1,016 certainly seems like a bargain compared to the 1,850. So interesting. As everyone knows, the PS4 is going to be about 400, and the Xbox One will be about 500 here in the U.S. Zynga is once again experiencing a little upheaval, some turbulence, if you will, after nearly 6 years, actually, excuse me, more than 6 years, with the company that started off farming us on the internet. Justin Waldron has actually left the company as one of the co-founders. He's left to, quote, venture off on my own again. We don't really have a lot of information as to what he's going to do now, but I think it's definitely a sign that one of the co-founders has now left. I mean, Zynga's been in a little trouble for a while. They were able to capitalize on the social gaming market when it was very new, but now that it's really kind of gotten to be big out there, it's they've really kind of lost market share and they haven't really become quite the power that they used to be. So it was a good run for them, but I'm honestly I don't really expect to see Zynga bouncing back from this too much. They unfortunately they adopted a business model which I, from a moral perspective, didn't particularly like. I guess from a business perspective it worked fine, of just basically finding other games that were good and either making them better or just straight ripping them off. So it was kind of an interesting model, and it did work for a while because they knew how to market and they knew how to do the social aspect correctly. But again, so many companies are into it at this point. The competition is so huge that it just doesn't really surprise me to see things like this. So I honestly call this a prediction. I don't expect Zynga to be much of anything within 2 years. And when I say 2 years, I might mean 18 months. I really just feel like the company is just about done. So, speaking of things that are just about done, we talked about the Mutant Football League Kickstarter here a few weeks back. So, for those of you who know, the Mutant League Football game for the Sega Genesis from years and years ago was a comical sports romp with football characters, which is certainly a good time of year right now for it. They were looking for about $750,000, and they picked up about $141,000. So clearly hitting significantly short of their goal. So though the certainly Michael Mentheim, who was the guy behind the Kickstarter, has definitely said, quote, "We will be back, my friends. Not sure how, when, but we're coming. You better be ready." Yeah, they'll find a way of getting this thing out. I don't know if Kickstarter was necessarily the best way to go for a game like this. I feel like once it's produced, it'll sell, but it was really niche as far as people that were willing to spend money up front to get it. So they probably just picked the wrong platform. I think they'll be able to find some form of a company that will pick it up, which I know isn't what they want to do. The original was published by EA. They said they'd love to work with them again, but he wants to retain full rights as far as creative over the game. And that gets to be a little iffy when you start working with large companies like this. So we'll end up seeing it. I'm sure it's going to require him to compromise a bit if he wants to see the game put out. Especially showing how short they came up on Kickstarter of doing it. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this and see if it ends up going anywhere. So speaking of projects that may not get off the ground, Nintendo has been actually kind of discussing an interactive Zelda movie. So the producer of this series, Eiji Aonuma, has said that he would be interested in a big screen adaptation of the RPG series, but only if it allowed viewers to interact with their 3DS in the theater. Why do I see this just being a horrible train wreck? Like, you've got everyone, you've got 150, 200, 250 people in a movie theater, all on their 3DSs attempting to interact with the movie at the same time. No, nothing wrong could possibly happen here at all. Yeah, yeah. I think this is more Dreamland than anything. I know that Nintendo's not necessarily all about, oh, we absolutely must make this. And if this is the grounds under which they want it made, I really just don't see it being made. Probably ever. Um, it'd be neat. It'd be cool. I like the idea in theory. I just feel like the practicality of it, not to mention the ability to actually interact with the movie, and then how are you going to deal with that once it comes to, say, DVD? I feel like there's just too many hiccups here. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to be one of the first people in line if they ever actually make a Zelda movie, but I don't think they're actually going to ever make a Zelda movie. So, sad, sad. Xbox One launch. You want to go by your real name? No, thank you. Not going to happen. At least not at launch. Microsoft has confirmed that players will not be able to identify themselves by their real name at launch. They will only be able to be identified by their gamer tag. They basically have just said, we're going to do it, but not yet. Quote, while real identities continue to be part of the plans for the experience on Xbox One at launch, customers will continue to search for friends using their gamers tags. Our teams are working hard to deliver a quality experience for Xbox One. This means prioritizing some features and sometimes postponing others for a later update. So they're going to do it eventually. It doesn't seem like it should be that hard, but then again, I'm also not a console programmer, so this could be way harder than I possibly think it is. The PS4 is going to allow people to identify themselves by their real names, though it is not clear if it's going to be supported at launch. We just know that they're going to be able to. Pokemon. You want to catch them all? You know, you and 4 million of your closest friends in the first 2 days. Pokemon XY sold 4 million copies in its first 2 games. They became the fastest selling 3DS games to date. It always kind of makes me happy whenever a Pokemon game. There will always be a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for Pikachu and his God knows how many friends at this point. 400, 500, 600 friends. I'm sure somebody will listen to this and be like, there's exactly this many. And I used to know how many there were, and then they made a lot more. Yeah, it's currently pacing ahead of Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 by more than 70%. And there's, I mean, looking at the number of copies various games have sold, I mean, Fire Red, Leaf Green at 12 million total, Heart Gold and Soul Silver at 12.67, scaling all the way up to the biggest one of Diamond and Pearl at 17.6. It's sold more than 245 million Pokemon games worldwide to date, which easily makes it one of the strongest brands in the history of video games. No question. And you know what? It's just good fun. Pokemon is just good fun. It really is. Everything from the card game to the video games to, heck, I used to have the Game Boy Pinball game, and even that was good fun. So, I love the fact that it really is. It's starting to have been around long enough to really transcend generations. Fathers who played it when they were young are going to be able to introduce it to their kids. So, it's good. I love to see it, and let's just keep that. Let's keep that franchise strong. I like it. So, an ex-Valve inventor has launched a Kickstarter here for some VR glasses. It uses holographic projections. They're looking for $400,000, and when I looked, they had already gotten it. So these glasses are kind of interesting here. They are a projected augmented reality system that's capable of displaying, quote, holographic-like 3D projections. So there's a couple of peripherals, and I'm not going to get into the whole technical specs behind these things. Uh, I think it's needy, kind of cool here that they're making these. I don't know how practical they are, um, but I mean, glasses that you can actually kind of create these projections and see them and play with them and everything, I think is pretty kind of needy cool. So it looked like there were all sorts of pledge levels. It looked like the cheapest one that got you for glasses was about 189 bucks, and then it went up from there as far as depending on what like accessories you needed and stuff like that. But the true introductory pack was about $189. League of Legends, um, the boss over there, Mark Merrill, he got his Twitter account hacked. Uh, anyone can get their Twitter account hacked. It just doesn't. If they want in, they're going to find it. So yeah, the president and co-founder Mark Merrill, he had his Twitter account hacked, and he actually admitted, "Yep, I got it hacked." Um, he put up there in the end, "Yep, someone got into my Twitter account. Yep, someone shared some old screens from one of the many prototypes we've experimented with." Uh, so apparently, when they were in there, though, they found a lot of files for a card game called League of Legends Supremacy, but it got buried for reasons unknown. Well, heck, I like card games. I always love to see stuff like this come out. Riot doesn't want you to play this game, said the hacker. Well, clearly they didn't want you to play the game. If they did, they would have released it. So for whatever reason, they felt like they didn't want to release it. So it was supposed to be some standalone game. Don't really have any further details. We do know that Riot did trademark the name League of Legends Supremacy in May 2012. Maybe it still is coming out. Maybe it just wasn't ready. I don't know. Riot's certainly not talking about it. I can't imagine they're going to comment too much on leaked stuff. So it really has kind of become the big thing lately about card games going to digital platforms. We've got Hearthstone that's hit, and Hex has hit alpha. Hex, the guys over at Cryptozoic. I'd love to be able to tell you about Hex Alpha here. I really would, because I've given the game quite a bit of press, and I have liked the game, but I've not really been able to get the guys over at Cryptozoic to respond so far as the alpha and stuff like that. I'm sure those guys over there have just been very, very busy, and they just haven't had time. But as soon as I can get my hands on one of these alphas, and I did play the pre-alpha down at the actually at Cryptozoic headquarters, so I do have some idea. I'm sure the game has evolved quite a bit since then, now that it's in a public alpha. So as soon as we're able to get into the alpha, I will be happy to tell you guys all about that. But in the interim, I just don't have any news on it. I figured I'll mention it since we're talking about card games here. On to another franchise, which is actually rather fun. Rabbids Big Bang hit today through iOS, Android, and Amazon. A little mobile game here. It's 99 cents, 150 missions within the game. If you've ever played the Raving Rabbids series, oh lord, it's just fun. There's just something about grabbing one of those rabbits around the neck and just strangling it and throwing it. Please note to everyone who's listening, I'm saying rabbids, not rabbits. We do not condone choking and throwing rabbits on this show. Rabbids, though, absolutely. So this one's got a space theme. There's lots of customization options. You can fine-tune your jetpacks and dress the rabbids in various outfits. It was announced last month, and it is now out today. So if you want to hit iOS or Android, Amazon, any of those, go ahead and pick up one of those. I think that is definitely going to be 99 cents that I'm spending. And so our last story that we're going to cover right now is really, am I really going to go there with Leisure Suit Larry? I absolutely am going to go there with Leisure Suit Larry. Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded is coming to retail. God, it seems like everything old is new again. So the old game from like 1987, which was Leisure Suit Larry in the Land of the Lounge Lizards. It was originally launched on PC, Mac, iOS, and Android in June, and we're now going to get a full-on boxed retail version. The original Kickstarter campaign raised over $655,000 from about 14,000 backers. So, I just remember Leisure Suit Larry being naughty. And maybe it's because it came out in 1987 when I was about 11 years old. So there was nothing about Leisure Suit Larry that I should have actually been looking at that age. And I actually haven't looked at it. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll actually take a peek at it and see if it's as dirty as my mind has made it out to be over these years, or if it was just actually just maybe a little risque, if you will. Okay, so when we come back here, we are going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about my last 2 weeks. I'm kind of interviewing myself, which is maybe a little egotistical here, but I'll be honest, I've had a very interesting 2 weeks here when it's come to gaming. We've traveled all over the US and yes, all over the world, if you will, to play in some events. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of insight on what exactly that experience was like. You are listening to the Gamers Dome on the Drawing Board Radio Network. You okay?
You're funny.
I am? Am I?
You're silly.
What am I silly about?
I don't know. You just say some funny, cute things. I like it. I enjoy listening to you.
Oh, good. You're probably going to get mentioned in this next segment.
So how?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet.
Don't call me Crash.
You think I script my shows?
Well, let's avoid using any names.
I'll probably use friend or something. My friend Crash. I might. Who knows? I might not even mention you.
No, you should. I'm pretty egotistical as well.
Are you?
Yeah, I have to fart, but I'm trying to do it during the breaks.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're about to come off of this one. Okay, we're back live here. Welcome back to the Gamers Dome. Okay, so I would like to discuss a little bit here about my last 2 weeks in the world of gaming. I think it's been rather interesting. That's maybe just my personal opinion, but considering it's my show and I can talk about it if I want to, here we go. Okay. So the last couple of weeks here, I've been doing a fair deal of travel. Some of it has been personal travel, just accompanying friends to various locations, and some of it has been gaming travel. And I'm sure you guys would love to hear about all of my random personal travels. And by love to hear, I mean not love to hear. So we're just going to skip over all of that. There's two that I'm going to start with here. So we're going to start with Grand Prix, Oklahoma City. Before I left, you guys heard me pimping that one out a bit. And if you missed it, You missed a hell of an event, actually. You missed a really good one. The guys over at Legion, they do really good events, and I'm not exactly sure what the next event they're running is. As far as major, I know they've got a few that are going to be coming up, but you better believe that when it does come up, I'll be sitting here talking about it because these guys just do a really good job of putting on a good tournament. And when something does go wrong, like they had a small issue with the sleep-in specials, the way it was done. So everyone that got a sleep-in special, they're like, we're really sorry. And this was not a major issue at all. This was like a tiny issue. I think like everyone had to register their own decks, which normally the sleep-in special you won't do it. It's kind of one of the benefits is that you kind of get a pre-registered deck, but they had a small issue with that. It wasn't. So they went ahead and gave everyone with the sleep-in special a draft set, which was cool. I mean, heck, that was a pretty good compensation for me for just having to look over some cards and mark them down on paper. So I played in the Grand Prix, which was Theros sealed deck, and I am not ashamed to say that I got my ass kicked pretty bad. Now, in fairness, it was sealed deck, and I got a really bad sealed deck. I mean, sometimes there's just not much you can do. For you Magic players out there, I basically had a Metamai and a few Vaporkin, and that was about it. I mean, the deck was just miserably awful. I was trying to play Metamai and Arbor Giant in the same deck. Yeah, um, that's not easy or good or advised. But the problem was that my pool was so bad I had to try to play anything bomby and just hope that the mana worked out. So what do I get as a result of my wonderful deck? Well, I have a 3-round bye, so my reward going into round 4 is I get paired with Shahar Shenhar. And I was like, when I saw the pairing, I thought, oh great. Okay, because for those who don't know, Shahar Shenhar is the current reigning world champion. That means he's not exactly easy. and, and then they called our name for a feature match. So if you head over to dailymtg.com, and I'll post I don't know if I want to post a link to this. Maybe I'll post a link to it. You can actually watch my match with Shahar, otherwise known as how Shahar beat me down badly. I did, in fairness, I did make one small misplay during game 1 that uh, I think I was dead anyway, but it definitely cost me. It made it end faster. So in the end, I lost round 4. I won round 5, and then I didn't win again. I went lose, 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 and I'm losing matches 2-1. I'm not exactly getting completely blown out. I am a decent player, but my deck just didn't have any finishing power. So, and that's part of it. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about Grand Prix Las Vegas and Grand Prix Oakland, where I had a combined 17-1 record on day 1 in those environments, and they're a sealed deck, and I mean they were better sealed decks, and that's part of that environment is that sometimes you can just get a crappy sealed deck and you're just hosed, and it's just all there is to it. So I didn't feel too bad. I've been running pretty good lately. I thought, okay, well, let's just get Oklahoma City out of the way because I've got a more important tournament coming up after this. So, and I ended up playing some side events the next day. I played the Sunday Super Series qualifier, and I got a sealed deck that was equally as bad and a result that was equally as bad. And then I got into this Grand Prix Redux tournament, which was really kind of cool. It was neat to get to play a bunch of different tournaments, and I wore my camera for a number of them. But for the Redux, I'm like, you know what? I just don't want to wear my camera. I was like, I'm just going to play here. I'm going to have some fun. And I actually got a decent sealed deck. It was pure Swiss. And long story short, I ran that, or Pure Swiss break the top 4, which I guess isn't Pure Swiss, it's still modified Swiss. But it was 4-round, or I don't remember how many rounds Swiss, there's not 4. Break the top 4 and then single elimination. Long story short is I won it and got a foil set of Theros, which kind of bailed out my Oklahoma City. because the expenses were kind of up there. Foils of the Thuros get you a few bucks. You can pay for a hotel room or so with that. So, but you know what? I'll tell you this. I really kind of want to hit the Legion point again. Those guys just do a good job. There's just no way around it. They do a really good job of putting on events. Steve Port and company. Um, there were so few hiccups over the whole weekend. The tournament ran just beautifully as far as time. It really is one of the better major tournaments I've seen run. I've got to put them up there in the same grade with Cascade and Team Shields and those guys. And uh, I should wish Mr. Tim Shields a very happy birthday. It is his birthday today. Uh, I noticed that on the Facebooks, and I haven't had a chance to actually wish him a happy birthday yet. So we're doing it live on air. Happy birthday, Tim. But yeah, no, those guys, both of those companies, just you know what? They've both been around a really long time. They know what they're doing, and they run a good tournament. So, uh, but as good of a tournament as they hold, they can't make me get good seal decks. So that one's on me. But from Oklahoma City, I flew to Dublin, Ireland, and I learned the exact meaning of jet lag. Taking off from Oklahoma City Monday afternoon and landing in Dublin on Tuesday morning, completely exhausted and pretty much knowing I couldn't sleep. So that was very interesting. And what got really interesting here is it was over part of Oklahoma City and Dublin. A lot of our teammates were meeting up, and we were going to do a lot of testing. And we had been doing a lot of testing. And I think before I get into Dublin, I want to talk about the testing and the preparation and the types of things that goes into actually going to a pro tour, especially now that they are multi-format, both draft and constructed. So especially this, which was standard. It was a very changed environment, and we'd had a couple of major tournaments, but everyone pretty much knew nobody was bringing out any big guns for these like regional, like the SCG Opens and state championships. I mean, yes, those are nice, but winning a pro tour is much bigger. So we had a little bit of stuff, and there was certainly a genesis that went on with our team where we started testing a bunch of different decks. And I originally came up with an idea for a red-white Perforos deck with Assembled Legion and a whole bunch of just simply removal. It was basically kind of like a combo control deck that would it eventually won by dropping Perforos and Assembled Legion. And for those of you who don't know, Perforos is the red god, and the relevant part of his ability is that whenever a creature comes into play on your side, your opponent takes 2 damage. And Assembled Legion is that red-white enchantment that each turn during your upkeep, you put a counter on it, and then you put soldiers into play equal to the number of counters. So essentially, by doing nothing, once they're on the board, it's like take 2, take 4, take 6, take 8, and you're basically dead at that point because you've taken a lot of damage from soldiers coming into play. Not to mention you have soldiers and stuff like that. So this is kind of where everything started. And from there, we started discussing things a little bit, and the deck started to morph a little bit. And we realized that this combo really didn't work so well. It lost to a lot of various things. But there were certain aspects of it, like having Perforos in was still absolutely fine, but then but we needed some bigger, beefier creatures because the assembles were being dealt with too easily, and it was just too fragile. So we ended up putting things like Ember Swallowers and Stormbreath Dragons in, and stuff to make it bigger. And this is kind of where Neil Oliver really took the deck and started running with it. And I'm remiss if I do not give him a lot of credit at this point, because While I certainly did a bit on the genesis of this deck, he really kind of took it and started morphing it and really playing with it and got it mostly to the form that it ended up taking. As that it went red white, and eventually Perforce was good, but it underperformed. It wasn't really doing what we wanted it to. So the deck just kept kind of morphing, and now it kind of became like a red white mid range deck, which was suboptimal. And we kind of felt like, okay, well, something needs to happen here. We really need to bring something in because we were just losing too many matchups here. And in the end, it was black that we decided, okay, well, we need some of the control aspects of black, things like Thoughtseize and Rakdos Return and Dreadbores and Hero's Demise to be able to deal with Planeswalkers. And so the deck eventually morphed over into a red, white, black mid-range deck. And by the time the Pro Tour rolled around, pretty much everyone on our team was playing this deck, though we our exact 75, as it's known, which is 60 cards for the main deck and 15 for the sideboard. The exact 75 were not the same for everyone. I think some of the teammates might have played the same version. I went a little bit different, but it was mostly just changing a few cards in the main deck, a few in the sideboard, but still the same general type principles behind the decks. So it's interesting what you go through because you only have so much you can test with, and you don't know what's going to be out there. So you test against whatever decks you think you can come up with, and as the story goes, you'll see that part of our problem ended up we guessed wrong. Really, we guessed wrong what was going to be there. We thought that there was going to be more control, more Esper control, more blue-white control, and a number of our cards were against it. And in the end, that made up a very small percentage of the field, and it actually made up 0% of what I played against. So, in the same respect, Theros is also a format that we had to draft. And it didn't really hit MTGO until about a week beforehand, so it was very difficult to actually get any drafting practice in there. So most of our drafting had to happen in person. Now, I had gone to the MTG Deals Open the weekend before I left, or the last weekend of September, and they did an endless drafts thing. And you guys feel free to check out mtgdeals.com. They run a lot of tournaments. They do a lot of endless drafts and stuff that's cool over there. This is just my little plug for them here. So I was able to get in about 5 drafts over a course of a weekend, and I did eventually get onto MTGO and get some drafts in, and I felt pretty confident going into the draft portion of it. I tend to be more of a limited specialist than a constructed, so I knew I was going to have to kind of come out hot with limited, or else it was going to be a problem. So that's the prep. So now I'm going to jump back to the story of actually landing in Dublin, and Tuesday being just one of the most horrible days I've had in a while because I felt like a zombie the whole day, and all I wanted to do was go to sleep. And eventually around 8 o'clock, I gave myself the permission to do so. Wednesday, everybody came in a bit, and we walked around the area. We were in the Ballsbridge area of Dublin, which, God, you know what? This was my first trip to Europe, and it was really, really cool. Just the architecture and the people around and everything. It was just different. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily say better, to be honest with you. Some people like to reminisce over things. Oh, this is so much better. It's better than America. It's better than everything. Nah, I wouldn't say it's better. It wasn't worse either. The whole driving on the left side thing kind of freaked me out for a little while, and even anytime I had to cross roads, it kind of freaked me out because I'm always looking from the wrong direction. Though luckily, a lot of intersections actually would tell you if you looked down it would say look left or look right, depending on where you were. So you pretty much were able to figure it out. And they even gave you arrows if you couldn't figure that part out. So luckily, I never got ran over due to idiocy. But I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, it is a little stereotypical what you think of Dublin. There's quite a few pubs and places to drink. Unlike America, which I learned, if you want to just go grab lunch at 3 or an early dinner, that's not usually real possible. Not if you want to get anything good. A lot of the good food establishments are just not open during off hours. So, or at least over in the area that we were in. So, I'll admit I ate a lot of Subway. I don't know if I'm proud to admit that, but it is what happened. I certainly did get a little bit of good fare in over the time, but not as much as I would have liked. But Wednesday was spent, like, that's when a number of my teammates came in, and we started doing a little bit of testing on that day. And even more on Thursday of just getting together and playing decks, testing the matchups, fine tuning the decks, things of that nature. We got all registered for the Pro Tour on Thursday. And I wish I could say I did a lot more. I just didn't. Friday eventually rolls around, and it's Pro Tour Day. And I'm mostly going to summarize here because, for those of you who don't know, I had a rather pathetic Pro Tour. I went 1-2 in the draft portion. I got trapped early on. My opening pack was a really, really bad pack that had really no great picks in it, except a Triad of Fates. And I know some people like Triad more than others. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's the best thing since sliced bread. I do think it's a solid card. It's a 4-drop 3/3 at the very least. And if you get it going, it can get real tricky. In lieu of there being like a solid common or even really good uncommon or anything like that in the pack, I took it, and then I forced myself to stay on color, which, if you're trying to stay on color for black, is typically not that hard in Theros. Most people are happy to give you plenty of black. The white you had to fight for a little bit more, but in the end, it actually worked out okay that I was heavy black, because my third pack gave me an Aberrant Overlord. So I had a Gorgon in there, I had an Aberrant Overlord, a Disciple. We had some good stuff. I could blink with the Triad. I had a reasonably solid deck. It wasn't great. It was solid. It was slow, which is not good for Theros. Black-white, just not a good color combination. I barely lost my first match. I lost it 2-1 when I was just at the point of stabilizing in games 1 and 3 before I get burnt out. I won my second match against a blue-black deck that was slow. And I mean, even though they were slow in their control-oriented, Triad just basically makes it so I can win. There's just no other way of putting it. I can just win because of the card. It's the ability to just off your best creature, or me draw a bunch of cards by sacking bad creatures, blinking creatures. It just too much that I could do there. And then I played Joel Larson in round 3. He had a really good green-white deck that just was dropping all sorts of fun stuff like Fleecemane Lions and 100-handed ones. And I lost. He beat me 2-0 pretty soundly. Constructed, I go 1-4. And I should have gone about 3-2, realistically. I got mana screwed a lot. And you know what? I'm not going to sit here and bitch and complain about mana screw. It's absolutely part of the game. It happened at a ratio which was significantly higher than statistically should have happened. I got my weird draws a lot. And 3 of my 4 losses were definitely, they were 2-1, and 2 of the 3 games I got mana screwed. And it's not my first rodeo, guys. I do know how to make decks. I do know how to put mana. If I had it to do over again, I'd build the exact same deck. I didn't do anything wrong with that. I had good matchups. But sometimes that's how the mana works. So I ended up going 2-6, which was definitely a disappointment. Like I said, I do feel like I brought in a good deck for the environment. I never really got a chance to play it against like the decks that did win, like the mono blue Master of Waves Devotion deck, which ended up being a mirror matchup of that in the finals. So obviously it was rather good. But I feel like I feel like I did everything right. I just kind of got outlucked a bit. So you know what? It happens. It's not the first time it's happened to me. I've certainly been on both ends of the luck in my time playing this game. So you just move on, and there's more tournaments coming up. I'm qualified for Valencia in February, so I'm looking forward to doing that. So that is basically that's the entirety of my travels and stuff. There's going to be some videos. I'm going to be putting up my Pro Tour experience, and I hesitate doing it a little bit because I got my ass kicked a little bit, and I even had one point during my match with Joel Larson where I, I felt like a rookie, and not even a rookie. It was just a bad judge call and a bad play. And I mean, when you see it, you'd be like, God, was this guy playing the Pro Tour? And nerves can get to you a little bit. And I think they just did. I just wasn't thinking at that point. I was getting a little frustrated by his deck. But you'll see. You'll get to see exactly what it's like to play at the Pro Tour level. And I played 8 people from 8 different countries. Definitely an international affair. It was a great experience. It was my 4th Pro Tour. And like I said, I'm looking forward to my 5th one and seeing if I can maybe do just a little bit better. So when we come back on the other side of the break here, we're going to do our crowdfunding project of the week. I'll talk a little bit about what else I've been playing. There has been games that don't start with magic. So we'll get to those. You are listening to the Gamers Dome on the Drawing Board Radio Network. Well, not much of one, but I need to refill my water. Second three should be rather short. Welcome everyone back to the Gamers Dome. So, let's get into our crowdfunding project of the week. And you know what? This is really one of the better parts of this job that I really like. Is I like going out there and finding these projects that are they're trying to get funded, and there are so many really neat concepts out there. And I think one of the things that I have a soft spot in my heart for, and I always kind of have a little bit, is the educational games that are just completely hidden as educational. And in the same respect, when I was younger, I could do some programming. I have no real knowledge of, well, I can't say no, I have almost no knowledge of current programming languages. I can maybe edit some stuff. I can understand what's going on and do stuff like that. But as far as writing code, I can't. So botlogic.us is the Kickstarter that has caught my attention because it kind of takes both of these things in. It is a game which is designed to get kids excited about programming. and it actually takes programming and turns it into a full-on game that the kids they play and they enjoy and they love. And it's been around for a little while here, and but they're doing a full-on prototype of it here. They're trying to improve a lot of the user experience by making this available for various devices, like things like iPhones, iPads, Androids, I'm sure. They want to do offline play. They're improving levels, adding advanced features. So they kind of have the core out there already, which is kind of neat because it gives you an idea as to what you're getting already before you actually have to put money into it. And it's a neat thing that they've already got going out there. And I do feel like programming is one of those things that it can be difficult to learn, but if you catch it as a kid, it's like any other language. I mean, studies certainly have shown that learning languages is much easier when you're a child than it is an adult, and programming is really no different than that. So if we can get kids to learn this stuff young, it's just simply going to make things a lot better for them when they get older. So, botlogic.us, their Kickstarter's got all sorts of levels as limited as $1. You can give them $1, and you get expansion packs and everything from. I mean, it can go up to having your names in the credits, stickers, T-shirts. Uh, Donations for schools if you're giving enough there, beta access for the expansions, just a lot of really neat stuff. Um, so and it's nothing too advanced as far as the programming, like HTML5, CSS, JS stuff. Um, but it's fun. It's good. I encourage anyone out there who has an interest in programming or has a child that maybe they're interested in getting them into programming, or anyone that's connected to somebody like this, go under and throw them a few bucks. They're looking for they need 100,000 to really get this up off the ground. They've just started. Um, it really just kicked off a couple days ago, and they've got about 1,700 already. So it's definitely going to need our help. So check them out. I think it's fun, even if you can only give like $1 or $5, or I guess 10. $1, $10, $25. Even if you keep it small, it certainly would really help, and it's going to help a lot with the kids out there. So do it for the kids. Okay, so what have I been playing? Well, obviously we've already chronicled a little bit that I've been playing Magic, so I'm not going to talk about that. And there's certainly a few other games that I've talked about quite a bit on the show. I play SoulForge. I play SoulForge daily for the dailies. I play the game every single day, even if it's only a few games. I feel as far as a free game out there, it's one of the best ones out there right now. If you're not already playing the game, go on Steam or your iPad and get SoulForge. SOLFORGE. It is a card game. It's made by the same people who do Ascension, the guys over at Stoneblade. And um, seriously, I've gotten some friends who are not even gaming friends to play this game and enjoy it. So you really should. That's come to my attention. I probably should be playing Matching with Friends as well. Um, I just haven't been behind the social games lately. It's been a bit much. I have been playing Candy Crush, though not nearly as much. I kind of got stuck on a level for a while. Uh, by a while, like I mean like about 2 weeks, though I did eventually finally pass it. But the problem is that the levels, I mean, I'm up at like 418 right now, I think it is, and or 419, something like that. The levels are just really, really hard. They take a while and they can get really frustrating. So I'm kind of slowing down. But the game I really most want to talk about here it's another iOS game. This game I downloaded it a while ago, and I hadn't played it in a while. I happened to realize it was there, and I picked it up. Again, it's called Robot Master. It's another Reiner Knizia game, and he's done games like Lost Cities and a whole bunch of other ones. He's one of the big game developers out there. So anything that he's put his name on is worth looking at. And this is absolutely no exception. It's a simple little game played on a 5x5 grid where there are cards numbered 0 to 5. There's 5 copies of each, so 30 cards total. And there's a couple of different ways of playing it. But what the 2-player version generally involves like 12 cards. You can do it multiple ways. You can either do it everyone draws 12 cards up front, or you can do everyone starts with 5, and then after you play one, you draw one. So you play them back and forth. One person is columns and one person is rows. And whenever you're trying to amass the highest score you can in each either column or row. So the way you get the score is just simply by adding up the numbers across or up and down. Now, if you have 2 of a particular number in that row, it is worth 10 times the amount. So like if you have 2 4s, it's worth 40. If you have 2 1s, it's worth 10. If you have 3 of a number, regardless of what that number is, it is worth 100 points. So it could be 3 5s is worth 100 or 3 zeros is worth 100. And you probably can figure out that that's the only way a 0 is scoring for you. Though it can be a really good block technique. So you alternate placing tiles on the board, and then when it's said and done, you add up each row and each column. And your score is the lowest of your 5. Not the highest. You don't care about the highest. Whatever you score is the lowest is your score. So then you compare columns and rows and see who won, you or your opponent. It's a very simple game, but there is a ton of strategy involved with it. A little bit of luck because there are 25 spots and 30 tiles. So there's always going to be a few tiles out there that you haven't quite used. So it's a neat game. Honestly, I don't remember what it cost at this point because I've had it for years. I just kind of forgotten about it. It can't be more than a couple of bucks. I actually, using my King of 20 set, which is another game which I'll quickly mention, kingof20.com. We had this guy on like months ago. His game's awesome. It's like Scrabble for math. But I actually used some of the tiles for that to create an offline version of Robot Master, and I've been playing it with a friend a bit, and it's great. But you can always just get the iOS version. You can play solitaire or with friends. So that is it. And with that, we have come to the end of the week. Oh, another show in the books. I'll be honest, it actually felt pretty good to do this show. I haven't done a live show here in, it's been nearly 3.5 weeks since I've done a live show. So it certainly felt good to get back here and talking about this. I'd kind of forgotten how much I love doing this. So we're going to be sticking on Thursdays here at least for one more week. And then we'll reevaluate. It's always an evaluation process here as to see what day works best. We'll try Thursdays at least for now, and then if there's going to be any changes, you'll be able to see them on our Facebook page. Certainly go to there, facebook.com/thegamersdome. Follow us on Twitter at thegamersdome. You can send us any comments there. You can always write me, scott@thegamersdome.com. Always interested in any feedback you guys have there, show suggestions, anything. Always looking for good feedback on everything there. So I would like to I'd like to take a little bit of time here to thank everyone who always makes this show better and more than it would be without them. I certainly always have to thank I have to thank Melissa Stern, who always is there helping and supporting, and definitely fan number one of the show. Your support has always been appreciated. Thank you. Crash, I want to thank you a lot for helping me test a lot of the games and being supportive of me as well when I'm traveling around the world playing Magic. And everyone else who is out there that adds to the show in some way or form, thank you so very much. We will be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. I think I have a guest for it, but they're not confirmed quite yet, so we're not going to announce it. Check the Facebook page and you'll see it. Until next week, this is Scott Gerhart for the Gamers Dome, and keep playing, everyone. Bye.